Hey everybody, what's going on? It's PMOC at 86 Drive, and this is my friend Andrew.
Hi everybody.
You may recognize Andrew from some of the previous racing videos. Andrew has been at the racetrack with me for a couple of track days last year, and he has a Subaru BRZ. Speaking of which, I understand it's up for sale.
That it is. It's going up for auction in the next few days. And I want to thank you so much for kindly taking some shots and doing some video for the car, specifically for the auction.
Oh, my pleasure. So with that, why don't we take a look at the car and you can talk through some of the features and modifications that it has.
All right, let's do it. Hi everybody, my name is Andrew, and this is my 2015 Subaru BRZ Limited that is up for auction right now. And this has been an absolutely fantastic car. It is so fast in the setup. It's got aero, it's got power from the supercharger, and it's been an absolute hoot to drive. So I'm gonna walk you through it and we can take a look and see what's on the car. So let's start with the wheels. We've got Titan 7 wheels. These are so beautiful and they really make the look of the car. And wrapped around those are Nankang CRS V2 tires, about 50% tread left. And behind there you can see there's the AP Sprint brake kit, and that's only on the fronts. The rears are, as you can see, the stock kit. As well, there's Annex Club Sport suspension all around. Those are single adjustable. And everything is running on Ferodo brake pads as well. Inside as well, you can't see it obviously, but there is a Cusco limited slip differential that is set up for racing, and it really puts down power super well. And the axles are from Axle Shop. They're actually quite beefy axles. I had heard on these cars that they tend to break axles more than anything else. And so I did that preventative maintenance just to make sure that I wasn't going to have any issues on track, and rightly so, no issues. Moving over now, let's take a look at this wing. This is a Veris high efficiency rear wing. In fact, all of the aero bits on the car are from Veris. There was a Black Friday sale and I went to town. And this high efficiency rear wing is not as big as other rear wings, but at its maximum setting, it still creates quite a bit of downforce, and there's a lot less drag to go with it in terms of keeping your top speed up. You can see I've removed the rear deck spoiler. I still do have that. That will come with the car, and really just for rules and classing purposes, usually they only like to have you using one wing element. But if you want to put that deck spoiler back on, by all means, it will come with the car for sure. And you can see here, there are a few little black dots that are just taped on to cover up some of those holes. I did not wind up getting a new trunk, but if you are so inclined, you can feel free to do that as well. Moving down to the bottom of the car, you can see there's right now for an exhaust, we have on the car the stock exhaust, but I do also have a Revel Medallion S exhaust that I purchased. It was just a little bit too loud for driving around the neighborhood or going to a track day early in the morning. And I feel like with the other engine modifications, the car is plenty loud as is. But if you're California local, or if you have another local track that has a lot of sound regulations, then you will be just fine using this stock exhaust. As well, you can see there's the Sparco rear toe strap, as well as a mount for a transponder if you so wish to use one. It's worth mentioning that there has been a little bit of body work done here to this rear bumper. You really can't tell, but there was an on-track incident in terms of oil being put down on the track. Thankfully, there was no barrier contact, but another car did make light contact with that back rear corner that we're looking at right now. No new parts were necessary, just a quick trip to the body shop for a respray, and it really came out super well. The only thing that'll make you notice it is there's a little bit of play in the top of the bumper. Sometimes, on a hot day when you're driving, it will just come a little bit loose and it just needs to be pushed back into place. But you really can't tell, and that can probably be fixed with either a little bit of tape or some body clips. And you can see on this rear wheel as well, there's just a little bit of rash from that same incident, but the wheel is not bent, it's straight, so it's holding fine. And now we can jump over to the front of the car. So while we're on the topic of things not quite being perfect, you can see the front splitter here and the end plate. There's a little bit of scuffing there. I'm under the impression that a lot of these components are consumables. So in terms of a little bit of damage here and there, it's only going to get worse over time as you track the car more and more. But let's talk about what we've got. This is the Veris front race splitter, as well as those end plates. And something that I'm really proud of with this car is the work that was done by local Bay Area shop Elite Performance. They did an awesome job putting in the supercharger for this car. And it's a huge ask because normally when you put in these superchargers, they just have you sandwich all of the different radiators and oil coolers together. And if you live in a hot temperature or wind up tracking the car in the heat, you can get a lot of overheating. So here, the Elite Performance team, they actually cut out both of the fog lights on the bottom here. You can see right now we're looking at the supercharger radiator to cool down the supercharger oil. And you can see on the other side, there's the oil cooler. They cut out those fog lights, put the oil cooler and the radiator right there to get some great airflow. And then they also cut out this section of the front bumper in order to get a little bit more air to the now larger radiator for the engine. And they also installed a custom bash bar in order to create more airflow. So it's lower profile and still keeps the look of the car. And then you can see on the bottom now, there's just the intercooler as well for the supercharger. And then again, another yellow Sparco tow hook just to keep the paint scheme of the car. And then finally on top of the hood, you can see there are those Veris slanted hood louvers. That was a kit that was purchased. And the idea there is to get better engine temperature management. There's some more airflow in there. And on these cars, it's actually a known issue that the passenger side coil pack can overheat because it's down there by the exhaust. And with these louvers installed, that has never happened to me, although the car will come with a spare coil pack just in case that happens to you. All right, so let's take a look at the engine bay. Here you can see the Jackson Racing Supercharger Kit. It's a C38 Rotrex unit, and it comes with that air intake. There's also a spare serpentine belt. Up here you can see the Veris hood louvers. That install is done to maintain the structural rigidity of the hood. And then here, this engine was actually tuned by a shop here in the Bay Area called the Racers Line. Gives you a little bit of a red line bump, but not much since reliability was the primary concern here. And the hard red line cut has been turned into a soft limiter. There's also a limiter at 4,000 RPMs while the engine is warming up, so you don't do anything silly and damage the supercharger. This engine was actually tuned as a street tune, so unfortunately there's no dyno sheet, but that said, other cars have made about 250 horsepower with this same setup. Here you can see the Radium Brakemaster cylinder brace, as well as the camber and rebound adjustment for that annex suspension. There's also in the top right an oil reservoir, that's for the Rotex oil supercharger cooler, as well as on the left you can see the Radium air oil separator. Now, this engine is super strong, but it does have a common BRZ issue for manual transmission cars, which is that there is a plate nestled down in the bottom of the engine that can sometimes leak just a little bit of oil. It's very slight, but it's located right on top of the exhaust manifold, so sometimes you'll get a drop of oil that creates just a little bit of smoke, usually after the car's been sitting for a while. I was advised that it's not worth fixing until the engine's out, and thankfully this engine has been great and hasn't needed to come out. So for a track car, not an issue. Now it's also worth taking a look at our exhaust setup. We've got a JDL 421 equal length header. with the JDL ultra quiet catted front pipe with a resonator. There's also a JDL overpipe, and that was all installed professionally by Elite Performance. And this engine, it sounds great, it pulls great. It's been a really, really great drive all around. Okay, let's take a look inside of the car. Here we have two Sparco bucket seats, one size medium, one size large, as well as OMP 6-point harnesses. In the back, we have a roll cage that was from a local Bay Area shop called TC Design. It's a custom cage, and it's welded in. The rear interior was removed in order to facilitate that install, and it was never reinstalled for weight savings purposes. Now, whenever you do change seats in these cars, it can create some airbag light issues. Thankfully, that's not an issue in this car. For the driver's side, it's just a matter of installing the right resistor. For the passenger side, it's a little bit more difficult. I actually wound up sacrificing the passenger side stock seat in order to have all the necessary parts. Now here you can see there's also the seat belts still affixed and out of the way, so you're not going to get any dings or chimes while you're driving. As well, the RAM mount here is in order to have a tablet for data analysis, and that is a great addition to have. You can see down in the bottom there is actually a track box. It's located in the center console. There are 4 toggle switches, one for the Subaru pedal dance, one to keep the fans on, one to get rid of seatbelt chimes if you so need it, and one for disabling TPMS monitors. Now, if you take a look back here, this is the fuel filler door that is removed in order to put in a Veris fuel flap. That helps for fuel starvation. So this car has been run super low on fuel, out on track, down almost to empty, and it hasn't missed a beat. And so that is a really great feature to have. And the panel is not quite as stuck on as I would like it to be, but I haven't had the chance to really re-stick it on there. So on a hot day, maybe it'll start moving around. It doesn't bother me, might bother you. It's also worth noting that there's a little bit of wear here on the steering wheel just from use and time, and that might be something that you can live with, but it also might be something that you would want to replace. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm here to answer any questions that you might have, and I wish you all very happy bidding.